West Asia is made up of countries that border Eastern Europe. This area includes countries such as Iraq, Saudi Arabia, a major portion of Russia, Turkey, and others. At a glance, West Asia doesn't look like it would be suitable for much of a strong forest product industry. West Asia has almost no forest cover and a poor economy. Most countries in Western Asia import almost all of the wood products they need. Turkey is a prime representative of most countries of Western Asia. Turkey's economy is growing, but still lacks a high GDP and per capita income to have a strong enough economy to support a fully mechanized system of forest harvesting. Countries like those in Europe and Scandinavia have long surpassed the technology used in Turkey today. Turkey, along with other countries in West Asia, don't have the governmental power and enforcement to issue effective laws banning the illegal harvest of timber. In low-developed rural areas where most of this illegal harvesting takes place, manpower is normally used. Mechanical techniques are rarely used to harvest this illegal timber. Overall, mechanical techniques are nearly non-existent in Turkey. However, Turkey is currently working on improving their economy and governmental strength. When this is done, they plan to improve their harvesting techniques to the caliber of the U.S. and most countries in Europe. Turkey's climate and landscape varies greatly depending on where you are in the country. This is due to Turkey's enormous size, 783,000 square kilometers to be exact. This ranks Turkey as the 37th largest country in the world. Due to the Earth's plate movement, Turkey is a very mountainous country bordered by seas on three sides. Turkey has been divided into 7 regions due to their obvious differences. In some places, the temperature can drop to negative 30 degrees Celsius, and other regions can experience temperatures as high as 40 degrees Celsius. Due to the radical differences in climate and landscape throughout Turkey, forestry is a limited business, which is mostly done on a small scale by locals. The mountainous terrain requires expensive, specially designed machines to harvest the timber, which is unpractical to buy due to the low acreage of land covered by forest. As a result, timber harvesting is done in certain months throughout some regions and other months in other regions. Almost all the harvesting, however, is done by manpower, not machinery. The Mediterranean coast of Turkey has an ideal climate for some forests. However, due to the pleasant weather and flat landscape, this has become an area dominated by people and cities, not forests. Forests are mainly in inland areas, which are remote and hard to access due to the terrain. This also makes mechanical harvesting difficult. Mechanical harvesting started in Turkey slightly after the United States. However, it has yet to take hold as a mainstream method of timber harvesting. In most developed countries, mechanized harvesting represents 80% of the total harvest. However, in Turkey, that number is drastically smaller at only 13%. The financial commitment required to accumulate the specialized equipment is too great to outweigh the economic stresses faced by the region. Also, lack of mechanization is largely due to the environmental constraints of the region. Only 26% of the land in Turkey is covered by forest, and of the 26%, only half of the forest holds timber of measurable value. In addition, a lack of streamlined standardization makes it difficult to build support systems for a mechanized harvesting market. Manpower harvesting is simply easier to manage, and the availability of people is much greater than that of machines. This creates a steady workforce in Turkey due to the slow rotations of timber there. Men also have assistance of animal power from oxen, water buffalo, and horses. The cost of this method is still very high due to the wages of the workers and food for the animals. In some cases, it can cost more than fuel and maintenance for the specialized equipment. This method is also very inefficient, mostly because of the steep slopes most timber in Turkey is harvested on.
Some of the mechanized forest harvesting techniques used in Turkey are cable skidding and mechanized logging. The pros of cable skidding is that it allows larger trees to be felled without damage, and it is cost effective and reduces the size of the hitch, which makes transportation of the trees easier and less degradation. The cons of cable skidding is that chainsaw operators are vulnerable to falling debris and require extreme physical exertion. The pros of mechanized logging is that it offers higher protection and smaller fellers, which increases maneuverability, and is able to cut trees down more carefully. The cons of this is that it requires larger trails and may deplete soil nutrients over time, which will lead to degradation, and it might not be able to handle large trees. In Turkey, forestry does not contribute much to the economy, which is why the people do not rely on the forest for an income. This is why the forest only covers a small percentage of the land in Turkey. Furthermore, many forests became overmatured due to poor management and infrequent cutting, which made the values of the tree decrease and not commercially exploitable. Due to this reason, the state in the mid-1950s took control of all of the forest areas from private owners. Their objective was to control traditional logging and grazing rights, since Turkey was mostly agricultural. However, the lack of alternative fuel makes it impossible to stop illegal wood harvesting in state forests. On a side note, the General Directorate and the Ministry of Forests assumed responsibility for logging and deforestation operations and for reducing erosion. Have you ever thought about Americans cutting timber in another country, like other than the U.S.?
No, not really. Why would they want to?
Well, it just seems like the demand is so high they could make more overseas with the less overhead costs.
All I can tell you is don't try it in West Asia. Did you know that only 10% of the forest harvesting is done mechanically?
It's no way. It has to be higher than that. In most developed countries, mechanized forest harvesting accounts for 80%. It's even higher in the U.S.
I agree. West Asia is seriously behind if it's only 10% mechanized.
I know, but trust me. Just look at Turkey, a great example. Even though they're in general economic terms, Turkey is doing pretty well. Only 8% is mechanized. There's 5% mechanized harvesting done by Skyline. And so, like I said, around 13% is mechanized.
So how's the rest harvest, people?
Pretty much 72% of all timber harvesting in Turkey is done with manpower and another 8% done by animals.
I thought I heard that Austria had nearly 80% of the forest harvesting mechanized, and you're telling us that Turkey's that far behind?
Yeah, that's right. Austria is so far ahead mainly because it's located in Europe, where harvesters, skidders, and foresters are the norm, just like Scandinavia and the U.S. West Asia, however, is different since 97% of Turkey's land is located in Asia. Their harvesting techniques are also very different. Even though the first skylines were in Turkey in the early 1940s, they've lagged since.
Why is it that Turkey and the rest of West Asia aren't as mechanized as the areas near them?
It's pretty much due to three reasons. The first is the economy. The funds there are just not there to pay for the subsidized roads, to transport the timber and the machinery into the forested areas. It's much cheaper for individuals to hike or lead their animals into the forest. This also leads to the second reason, which is a lack of forested land. Overall, West Asia is only 1% forest. Again, it's not economical to spend tons of money on something that doesn't seem like a long enough payback.
Well, most people don't look at it like that, though. They see the short-term costs, but not the long-term.
Exactly. And another reason is because the government cannot regulate illegal harvesting. So much of the timber harvesting done in Turkey is under the table, which naturally means doing it as discreetly as possible with no machines.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess, but in a region like that, is mechanized harvesting really that much more effective than manpower?
I say mechanized harvesting has its pros and cons anyway. The pros definitely outweigh the cons.
I agree. With mechanized harvesting, you're using skidders, yarders, heavy equipment that can do way more than a horse. Not to mention a chainsaw for something like an axe.
I know. But that's all good things for people. What about the environment? With no machinery, roads will be smaller, which will reduce erosion, and it's not as big a risk of depleting the soil's nutrients.
You're both right. So I guess it depends on how you look at it. At one angle, West Asia is having such a small percentage of timber harvesting mechanically makes them look less developed, far behind other areas. But maybe in other countries we should look at countries like Turkey as an example.
I say Turkey being behind has actually put them ahead.
I don't know about ahead, but definitely more eco-friendly to the forest and land.
So So we pretty much agree that West Asia wants to stop depending on imports for their timber. They need to become more mechanized when it comes to forest harvesting.
As long as they harvest it sustainably, because they don't have any more forest to waste.
That applies to every country. Mechanization is efficient but can be extremely dangerous. It is sustainable harvesting the goal.